Good morning, everyone. This is Gail Dudley, and it is time for News in Motion. I could not get that out right. Anyway, I see Pastor Alex coming up in here. I see Misha in here, Dr. Antoinette in here, Felicia's in here, Deborah Sneed is in here. I want to say good morning to all of you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today is Tuesday, y'all. It is Tuesday, November the 15th. I also see Camille Jones in here and Yvonne in here as well. Y'all are rolling up in here this morning. Y'all, it is time for today's headlines. Y'all know this week we're doing things a little differently this week. Next week we are on break, returning on Monday, November the 28th. We're going to have some fun today. Today, I decided just to pull news from every which direction to bring it in here because we have a special guest today that we will be bringing on in a little while. But before we get to that, we want you to go ahead and hit the thumbs up or the hearts to get the algorithm going, so that when Mr. G. Anthony Saunders comes in here, he will have a lot of people listening to. And just by the way, I did a lot of marketing in the book. So we'll see how far we get in this interview today. We may have to come back again to do additional interview. I see you, Fred Jones and Hester Jackson. I see you, Marion Jackson and Jeffrey Allen James. I see you, Mary Owens, coming in from LinkedIn. Good morning. By the way, y'all, when you're seeing it frozen on this end, I see you, Rosanna Bivens, or on your end. I want you all to know it's not happening on the other platform. So it's not happening on YouTube. It's not happening on LinkedIn. It's not happening on Twitter. Yes, we're still there. It's not happening in the audio or the podcast. So something is going on. When we did some research yesterday, we found that it's only really happening on Facebook. So we'll give y'all some more information on that in a few moments. All right, let's get to today's headlines, see what's out here. In the news, I'm going to just call these three young men's name: Deshaun Perry, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Devin Chandler. Again, Deshaun Perry, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Devin Chandler. The University of Virginia lifted a campus-wide lockdown yesterday, hours after three students, football players, Black young men, were killed and two injured in a shooting rampage on a chartered bus that had returned from a field trip. Authorities said Deshaun Perry, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Devin Chandler were killed, all of whom played football at the school, University President Jim Ryan shared. The suspected shooter, which is Christopher Darnell Jones Jr., a former University of Virginia football player, was arrested right before 11 a.m. yesterday, about 75 miles southeast of Charlottesville. Let's continue to pray for the families of those three young men: Deshaun Perry, Lavelle Davis Jr., and Devin Chandler. All right, y'all. Bloomberg is reporting that Amazon is going to fire 10,000 people. They're going to let go 10,000 people. The largest ever mass termination by the e-commerce giant founded by Jeff Bezos. The company faces slower growth and fear of turn down, similar to other tech companies, that they have to cut thousands of people over the past few weeks, and they don't believe that's the end of it as well. So Bezos, being the fourth richest person in the world, says he's planning to give away his fortune. Okay, we'll see how that's going to happen. I see you, Shardinia. Now, I want us to pause for a moment to process some of this. And I want to start by asking the question, what is the future of social media? Not only social media, but also these tech giant companies. And I consider Amazon a part of that. We have Twitter's Elon Musk, who warned his employees by an email I shared yesterday of the difficulty ahead after he released thousands of employees and brought back a couple hundred. And now, after firing about 50% of the Twitter workforce, about 3,800 employees, Elon has reportedly laid off at least 4,400 contractual workers as well at the company. Now, this is CNBC that's reporting. And he did not let the internal teams know that that was about to happen. He just sent an email saying, we don't need you anymore. In addition to that, employees spoke with CNBC that Twitter has also terminated all of its internal communications team. So there's a lot that's going on there. So I want to know what y'all are thinking about the social media and tech giants. We also have Meta, formerly Facebook, has announced employees laid off. That was 11,000 positions estimated. And then we have, as you know, Amazon, who's releasing 10,000 people. And then on top of all of that, NPR is reporting that Google, a coalition of state prosecutors, announced yesterday that Google has agreed to pay nearly $392 million in a settlement with 40 states over allegations that the company tracked users' locations through their devices after the location tracking had been turned off. And that's breaking consumer protection laws in order to farm more data to sell to advertisers. So I really want us to take a moment to talk. I see you, Donita. I see you, Adrian, coming in from YouTube, and Kim Edmondson. So let's talk. Is social media still social, or has it turned to a money-making entertainment platform? What does it look like? Are we engaging anymore? Because when we look at the engagement numbers are just dropping across the platforms. The only thing that's still pretty vibrant, we have TikTok. And not only TikTok, we also have Twitcher or Twitch, I believe is what it's called, Twitch. Those two are rising. LinkedIn is probably staying pretty neutral. But what's really happening here? What's happening with all that's going on? I see you, Latrice. I see you, Lori. What's really happening here on social media? Now, again, when the past, since I guess it was last Thursday. Good morning, Barbara Kirby. I guess it was last Thursday when Isaiah froze at the end, and then people were saying that we were freezing yesterday. Well, this Facebook is the only place that has been freezing the video. YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, podcast, audio did not stop or freeze. So I want you all, we don't know what's happening here as they're cutting different employees in different departments. We don't know what's happening. So I'm wanting you all to make sure, if you are enjoying News in Motion, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube, which is youtube.com/Gail Dudley. Again, youtube.com/Gail Dudley, just in case we ever have to go over that way. Latrice says social media is definitely more business than social. It is. It is. I mean, we're all promoting. I mean, I'm on here now. This is what we're doing. Lori said people are using Facebook like YouTube and TikTok to use as their full-time jobs. A lot of influencers. You're absolutely correct. And Meta has canceled all of their rollout of doing news. I thought that was very interesting as well. And that just happened within the last 30 days. Kim Edmondson says, I think confidence in social media dropped after the last couple of presidential elections. I think that's correct. There's a lot there as well. And Yvonne said a lot of money involved, and those millionaires are having more trouble than they thought. Yeah, so it's turning into something else. And talking about unemployment, Deadline reports that Netflix has canceled Partner Track after one season. Now, I'm a little mad about that because I got on the bandwagon with Partner Track on Netflix, loved it, was eagerly waiting for season 2. It's not coming. They canceled that series. Partner Track debuted August the 26th with 16.7 million minutes viewed in its opening weekend and peaked to number 4 on Netflix weekly top 10 for the English language series. So why, if they held to top 10 in the number 4 spot for that long, why are they canceling? What's really happening? And y'all, if that's not enough, Los Angeles Times is reporting that about 48,000 unionized academic workers across the University of California's 10 campuses, who performs much of the teaching and research in the state's premier higher education system, walked off the job yesterday, calling for better pay and benefits. I'm like, what is going on? Y'all, do y'all see this news and how it's coming out? And then I want all of y'all to put in the chat, say what? And if you're driving, listening by audio or podcast, just yell out at your desk or in your car and just say, what? What? Y'all get this. USA Today reports that on Monday, the U.S. Department of Transportation announced that it took a historic enforcement actions against 6 major airlines to pay back, get this, y'all, $600 million in fines to hundreds of thousands of people who are owed flight cancellation refund. Airlines are required by the Department of Transportation to provide a refund to customers if their flights are canceled for any reason, even if the ticket was bought as non-refundable. Now, the refund also need to include any and all additional fees like baggage fee or seat assignment. So, y'all, that's happening. And for me, I'm glad it's happening right before the holidays. So maybe airlines won't cancel. They're really cracking down from the Biden administration and the Department of Transportation when it comes to these airlines and these fees. I just said a whole lot there. Y'all told y'all how many people were losing jobs. Y'all, this is the time again that we need to be sure to reach out and let people know, hey, if you need anything, let me know. Let me know how I can help you, whatever that looks like. Hey, good morning, Davia. Davia is saying nothing is given time to develop instant success or you're done. You're right. They're showing, going back to social media for a moment, they're showing all these influencers who left their jobs, the great resignation. Y'all remember that they're now looking for jobs because the influencer money is coming down. A lot of the affiliate links are coming down. I do a lot of, I do some things with Amazon from the publishing side. And even with that, when they've been sending us information for, Black Friday. It's interesting how they're trying to get us to push more than our category. Well, mine's in publishing. So how am I going to sell an iron, So it's just really interesting how they're pushing that. And you can even see from that side, something's up, something's going on. So influencers are changing. I see you, Stephanie Burbridge Hall. Good morning to you. There's a lot that's changing. So we just have to be mindful of all of that. And when it comes to your branding, your business, I'm asking you to pay attention there as well. And we've been talking about this for 2 years here on NewsInMotion. Your branding, the thing that has not stopped, it may have slowed a little bit, but email marketing is still at the top of the list. People were going to social media to do all of that, but email marketing is still at the top of the list. Also, y'all may not like it, printing out some letters, signing your name, like literally signing it in a blue ink pen, sealing the envelope, putting a stamp on it, and sending it for campaigns still work. Postcards, they still work. Y'all just notice email marketing hasn't gone away at all. It has not gone away. So be mindful of that as well. Now, if anyone is interested, just to lighten things up just a tad bit, if anyone's interested, CNN reports that Nick Cannon is set to welcome his 12th child. So if you want to know that, he's having baby number 12. So he'll be soon to show baby number 12. We were going to do Thanksgiving meats today, but we're going to wait and do that tomorrow. We also have a vegan version that's going to come in, and that's going to be Misha with Isaiah on tomorrow. And y'all know this week, anything goes this week. We're just coming down off of full straight ahead, full steam ahead, focused on the election. If you look, y'all, that house, that the house is looking a little interesting. Neither the GOP or the Democrats have made it to that what they call the magic number 218. The GOP's a little closer; they're at 214. But hey, the Democrats are at 212. This is interesting. But whoever gets in that seat, whoever is too close, not much is going to happen. Again, we the people have the control of both the House and the Senate. So going back to the list I shared with you yesterday, I'm asking you to just really think about how can you become more involved in civic engagement in your area. So it's just really interesting. So here's a few quick things before I bring in George. Fun things to do for Thanksgiving besides eat. Here's just a few things. And you want to stay. This book right here, if you don't have it, you're going to want to get this book. How do I put this up there? And yeah, these are all my notes for me asking questions. But anyway, learn about family history and heirlooms. That's a great one. Take a drive around the old neighborhood just to say, this is where I grew up. This was the corner store. This is where people were hanging out. We knew everybody up and down the street. That's where Big Mama lived. Big Mama and them lived. All of that. Have a contest for the best Thanksgiving centerpiece. Do a contest. Let the children draw Thanksgiving dinner mats and make sure you eat on the mats. You can go to the dollar store, get everything you need. It's not going to cost much at all. Play Black Card Revoke. Let's see if you still have your black card or not. And hear me, people. I know there's people who do not look like me are playing Black Card Revoke, and they are having a great time. Have a family fun. Have a fun family and friends photo shoot where adults wear clothes from the past, like in whatever year you were born, and the children wear whatever that's out there today. Decorate either the front porch or a Christmas tree. Watch family films. These are old films that you have recorded. We used to do that at Thanksgiving when my grandmother was alive, and we would pull out the old films after we eat, and it was just it was fun to engage in that. Do a treasure hunt Black Friday, only spending $100. See if you can keep $100 to buy all the gifts that you need. And then do what we do, my husband and I do for our anniversary. We make gifts. We make gifts. We don't buy gifts. Roast marshmallows on an open fire while singing and dancing. Lori Williams Wallace sent an email yesterday. I did see it, Lori. And she was talking about, have you ever done a dance countdown? Y'all know we've been doing countdowns since NewsInMotion launched back in 2020. I think we did our first one July 4th weekend of a countdown. I think it was music countdown. I think it was hip hop. I'm not for sure, but it was one of those. So Lori said that. So I started thinking, how can we get you all to do the dance? Send us a video. And then we try to string them all together and we do a contest with that. So I'm still processing that. We have until Christmas to get something like that up there. But thank you, Lori, so much for that suggestion. Have a before Thanksgiving meal tailgate where people, when they arrive, they gather outside and fellowship. They don't get in the house yet. Coupled with the tailgate, collect food donations to take together to the homeless shelter or to someone's home. Now, no food donation, you don't get into the house. That's what the tailgate is all about. Do a recipe book. I see you, Diane Ladybug. Do a recipe book. Everyone bring their favorite recipe, enough copies for everyone who will arrive, plus a few extras. Have the craft to make the cookbook as a gift that you give to everyone upon leaving. Organize a neighborhood cake walk or pie walk. That's an interesting one. I don't know if I would do that because I need to know what people's kitchens look like. Organize that. Bring fabric pictures and make a quilt. We can do that. Write letters to soldiers. Have a Thanksgiving walk around the neighborhood. Play flag football. That would be so much fun, especially if it was snowing outside. Play family bingo. And then here's my last one. Watch Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving to discuss how Franklin, I remember Franklin, was left by himself. Franklin was the only Black character in Peanuts. He is seated in a beach chair across the table from everyone else. Even though he's a part of the group, he's still distinctly separated from them. So have a discussion around that. So that's just a quick thing fun things that you can do. That last one's probably a little bit more deep than we wanted it to be. But all of that. And then the other thing you can do on Thanksgiving is have a discussion about when a man loves a woman. So we're going to bring in Anthony Saunders, and we're going to talk about this book. And I want all of you to get this. This makes a great Christmas gift, a birthday gift, an anniversary gift, something you could do with your singles ministry or something you can do with your couples ministry to have a discussion. He's very transparent in this book. Before I go there, Latrice Jones says she's triggered about what? Mary Jenkins says, good morning, everyone. It's Mary Jenkins. My Facebook and IG accounts have been suspended. I'm working to address that. I'm thankful I can view it this way. I'm thankful that you were able to find us on LinkedIn as well. So y'all, here's the book. And I want us to really think about this book. And I want us to support this young man. I want us to support this young man. Y'all can't let me advance, will y'all? Diane Ladybug said they did Franklin wrong. Haven't watched that episode since I come to realize that. And then Latrice Jones said Charlie Brown was wrong for doing him like that. You know, his wife finally addressed that. I don't know if she's still alive or not, but his wife addressed that. Jean Schultz about 2 years ago. She addressed that and said that her husband wasn't the one who drew that character or put that segment out there. She blamed somebody else, so who knows what's happening there. And then Jeffrey Allen James said how they portray Franklin is so racist. Yeah, we all watched that until recently when we all woke up and said, "What? He's in a beach chair and across the table." But there's that. Let me get back to this book. Let me just tell you this before Isaiah brings him in here. Amazon description reads, when a man loves a woman is intriguing, thought-provoking, and challenging. The author, in an easily comprehensible fashion, guides the reader through the intricacies of relationships. His unique ability to use illustration and transparency about his relationship choices compared to Jacob's. There's something to be had by everyone, single, married, male, and female. Now, this is the first book of George Saunders. The author is also an entrepreneur, a minister, certified life coach, motivational speaker, and podcaster. He has overcome several obstacles during his lifetime. He has a unique way of using humor, transparency, and compassion to connect with everyone he interacts with. He believes failing at something does not make you a failure. Failure occurs when we fail to glean anything from that experience. There's a few 5-star reviews on Amazon. One reader says, this is a great resource for those who are single or dating, an even better tool for those who are married and need to get back on track. They say they highly recommend. And then another reader says, it is easy to read, fun, and practical. The author shared several stories that probably resonate with many readers along the biblical teaching in the book. The book provides a lot of interesting information that helps people to understand, repair, and strengthen their relationships. It's a great tool for anyone in a relationship. They go on and say, I will purchase this book for my young adults, but I think this book will be a great book for premarital counseling, as well as a book for married couples. It's never too late to improve your relationship. So Isaiah, bring in Mr. Saunders, please, so we can start this conversation. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, thank you for having me. First of all, let me say thank you. When you held up the book with all those sticky notes, I went and grabbed my copy. Hopefully, this is an open book exam. That's what I feel like I'm prepared for. So,
well, I do this when I'm reviewing any book. I do this so that I can ask the questions that I want to ask and go back and grab things that I need to grab. So
okay.
don't be intimidated. And they're probably on at least 50 of the pages. So,
oh wow!
And I know we won't get through all of that, so we'll just have to come back and have you do a podcast segment the first of the year.
All right.
Let's jump into it. First of all, thank you for hanging out with me today. So my very first question about this book is, as I was reading it, I was like, wow. I mean, just eye-opening. Wow, wow, wow. And so my first question is, why this book and why now?
Oh, why this book? I don't want to get too deep spiritually. It would not go away. I preached that sermon from some similar title in 2009, and 12 years later, it's like it would wake me up at night. It would haunt me during the day. But I thought it was relevant to speak about relationships, to be honest, to be candid. And especially, like I said, for what part of my motivation was for my son and daughter, because maybe I didn't display personally some of the messages that I wanted to convey. And also, I just felt like it was my assignment. Sometimes you get assignments and you're going to be haunted until you complete it, whether you like it or not.
Right. So thank you for that. So this all began in 2009, and I'm on page 1 if you want to follow me. You say you preached this sermon entitled When a Man Loves a Woman. And then you said you remember during that time you looked out and the women were with you, but the men were side-eyeing you. So how did you get through that sermon knowing that the women were like, yeah, speak it. We got Black church experience, but the
Uh,
men were sitting there with probably their arms folded with their head cocked saying, I'm gonna need you to sit down. So how did you get through that sermon?
oh, you go with the crowd. You just you preach your text. I remember it was like my first point was when I said that Jacob had a job, and I said I believe before a man asks a woman for her name or phone number, you need to have a job. You need to have a legal source of income. And then it got a little personal because I said not only that, I had one woman tell me, not only do you need to have your job, you need to have your own stuff. Like I'm not visiting you while you living in your mama's basement. So the church divided into two camps after that. It was the Northern Kingdom versus the Southern Kingdom after that. So,
I can only imagine. And I want to bring this out to everyone who's tuned in. When you preached that sermon, you were divorced, correct?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So was there something about the divorce as you were reflecting on that relationship that helped you bring this sermon together? We know you went through just let me back up.
Yeah.
In the book, you mentioned that you were not a failure, but you
Mm,
had fallen short.
mm,
So you're divorced, you're given this sermon. It was probably I can only assume from reading this, it was difficult. You were reflecting, things were flashing uh
mm.
through your mind. How did you bring it all together? Not just for the sermon, but how did you bring it all together when you realized this is a book?
Um, I said in the book, when the first person mentioned it to me, I kind of just brushed it off. I barely had enough to get through a 25 minute sermon. A book, at the time of the sermon, it was the book part that you have to do the self reflecting. You really had to go deeper into it, and I think it's Minnie Rippleton talks about back down memory lane,
Yeah.
and you see all the crash sites, all the misturns,
Yeah, yeah,
all the debris, all the everything. But I think self-examination is good. I think it's necessary. Again, I don't believe. Again, I say, failing at something doesn't make you a failure. Even if you failed at it, sometimes people failed at businesses multiple times.
right.
But that doesn't. But they turn out to be a success. One of the people I use is we all like a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Uh, Harlan Sanders have been turned that failed at many things, failed at law school, failed at politics, failed at different businesses,
Right.
and now many years after his passing, we still like Kentucky Fried Chicken.
The
So
recipe changed a little bit, but yeah, we can still like
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So let me ask, so you go on to say my inability to sustain lasting meaningful relationships. And then you go and say I could list a bunch of excuses, but that wouldn't do anyone any justice. So you were able to say, okay, I have an inability here to sustain lasting relationships.
hmm
As I continue to read, and I can flip to the back and then come back to that if you want me to. But as I continue to read your book, because it is a page turner, everyone who's listening is a page turner because you want to know what's going to happen next. But with that, you still were transparent enough as a Black man to say
hmm
my inability to sustain lasting relationships. How has that helped you, and how has that helped other men in your circle of influence?
and well, what has helped me is that you know self reflection. One, you have to be honest with yourself, and I talk about one of the lessons, and I don't want to jump too far ahead of you. Is I believe before entering a relationship with anybody else, examine and evaluate the relationship you have with yourself. And a lot of times we enter relationships looking to uh, fill voids, the ease pains and wounds, and you find yourself almost like Groundhog's Day. Sometimes you find
Yeah.
yourself, man, I've been here before. This sounds familiar. Here I go again. So I had to pause and just pause and just be good with me. And right now I could say I'm happy with me. I'm complete with me. And I think the healthier you are as an individual, the healthier you are can be in a relationship. My other challenge is that, especially within the Black community and in church, one thing we don't like to talk about in church is that divorce amongst the body of Christ is just as high, if not higher, than in the secular world. Um, and we don't like to really talk about how and why.
Mhm.
And the example of marriage is vanishing within the Black community. It's rare. You have, I think, is 70% of Black households are led by a single female. I think that's a challenge, especially so those are my motivations for writing the book, even if it was painful.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. Now I jumped ahead. I went because I had a note
Okay.
on what you just said, so I jumped ahead. You said that you created a list and then self examination. Those were the two things. And then you said under the
Mm,
self examination, you talked about the pain and self reflecting. So which you did touch on that. But then you go on to say in the book, this will require some pain and self reflection, along with acknowledging my lack of success when it came to long-term relationships. At what
mm.
point in your life did you realize that that you called it, I'm using your words, lack of success with maintaining relationships?
Oh, you want what, after the first marriage or the second marriage? Um, they said three times the charm. That didn't work out either. Um, um, the self-reflecting part, I think. Well, part of it during that process, I mentioned in the book that I my official diagnosis of ADHD, and
Yeah.
that kind of opened the door, turned the light on as to why I was making some of the decisions that I was making, some of the choices that I was making. It's not. I don't believe it's any one person's fault, but sometimes we just make. And in my case, I think poor choice making. It comes down. You can't blame anybody else. No one held the gun to your head. No one, but um, poor decision making, ignoring my spidey senses, trying to, as being in ministry, maybe trying to over spiritualize some things, trying to discern what God says. Sometimes we're not hearing God, we just hearing ourselves.
Right, right. Because you go on to say that you need it to be intentional, and being intentional requires effort. But
Hmm.
even here, you're saying, and I'm going to ask tough questions on purpose.
Okay.
Even here, you're saying, you went through the first time, the second time, the third time, and that didn't work either. So, what about the person who says, "Well, how can he write a book about it? How can he help me through this?" What will be your answer to that person?
Well, let's say this way. In the Bible, God, in the writing of God's word, He did not hide anyone's flaws, you know. And we can run around church and shout and jump up and down about what Paul said, about what David said, but they were all flawed in the individuals. And I think that sometimes those flaws, the same things that disqualified me, were the same things that qualified me. Again, did I learn something? Can I share something with you
Mhm.
that may be helpful in your relationship choices, in your current relationship, in this book? I think it's something for everyone. And I think sometimes in the body of Christ, we come together and we want to give this air like we got it all together, that our marriages are perfect, our children are perfect, our finances are perfect. And I think we kind of do a disservice. I think that we need to be a little bit more forthright. I'm not saying you have to tell everybody all your business, but I think that we should be able to say, hey, I don't have it all together. There are areas of my life and whatever you know, that could
Mhm.
use some improvement, that there's areas of struggle. I mean, but on Sunday, we all come together, we sing, we pretend to sing the same song from the same song book, and we shout and fall out. And a lot of times we come in broken and we leave broken because we're trying to be like somebody else. But trust me that
Mhm.
they don't have it all together.
Yeah, let me jump out here. Latrice Jones says, marriage is work and ministry. I couldn't imagine walking this journey with anyone other than Fred Jones. That's her husband. So,
There you
and I
go.
just want to say it is work and it is a ministry. And that's what I believe you're pulling out of here as I'm going through your book, when I was going through your book, that it is work and it is a
It's work.
ministry. And you were able to say, you know what? 3 strikes to some degree.
Hmm.
And then thinking about your son and daughter, right?
Hmm.
Thinking about them. And then we have Mary Jenkins saying definitely she wants a copy of the book. We'll tell you how to get in a minute. But then I want to jump ahead because I'm not going to get to all of these.
Okay.
We only have a short time. We can finish this
Okay.
up on the podcast at another time. But the other thing you brought out, the 4 C's. Completion, contract, commitment, and character. Those are the 4 C's. And you also said value. Can you jump into that just for a couple minutes as to how you came up with those 4, and then you also added value in there as well?
Okay. Well, I talk about the 4 C's because when Jacob, everything is going great, fantastic until Jacob says, "My time is completed. You know, I gave you my 7 years, and
Right.
so give me Rachel, and that I may consummate my marriage." And then he wakes up the next day and finds that he's been tricked.
Bamboozled.
He's been bamboozled, hoodwinked, run amok. I think at that time, Jacob didn't have option. Let me just say that did. But in today's time, if we would have found that our contract was violated or voided or something, we would be looking for the exits. And I say that he was committed. I think he was committed to Rachel. I think he made a commitment to Rachel.
Mhm.
He may have had a contract with her father, but he had a commitment to her, even though her father treated him, uh, did him wrong. Um, he didn't take it out on her. There's no mention that, hey, I'm only here because your father did such and such. He was committed to her. He completed the project. A lot of times, where does a guy want to get you? And this is where I talk about to women. Sometimes one of the things that Jacob did when he said that he would work for 7 years for her daughter, to Laban, for Rachel, he placed value on her. And I think sometimes we can misunderstand value just because somebody wants to spend money on you and buy you
Right.
Louboutins and Louis bags and take you on exotic trips, but yet they don't spend any time with you, doesn't mean that they're placing value on you. And I talk about in the book about some relationships I've been in where these women, one person I wanted to take her out, and she told me, fine, but when you come pick me up, you got to open my car door when I get in, and you got to open my door when I get out. And I was like, I don't even know if I like you like that yet. But guess what I did? I opened that car door when she got in, and I opened the car door when she got out. And in a way, she let me know you can't approach me any type of way. I value myself, and I expect you to treat me with that same level of value without the head rolling, no attitude. It was sweet. Like, dang, I ain't had no choice but to open the car door. And you can do that. And I encourage women to place value on yourself. Um, you know, uh, know what you're looking for. I think I put in a book, you need to write down 10 things you wanted to make. The first 3, 4, you can do that. That when it gets a little bit deeper, you got to sit and think, what do I really want in a mate, in a relationship? Don't ignore your spidey senses. Uh,
Right.
Most things that when they failed, they weren't big surprises. They were stuff that like, yeah, I ignored that thinking, God's going to fix it.
Yeah, yeah. I see we're not going to get through all this, but let me go through
Okay.
this. I do have a couple more questions. Mary Jenkins from LinkedIn said, who better to shine the light on the thing than the one who went through from the
Mm.
dark into the light? Mike Nicholson says, love the transparency of the convo. In the book, Too Many People Out Here Be Fake with Relationship Advice. And then he goes on to say, oh yeah, I'm reading the book. Then we have, let's see, Dr. Antoinette that says, know your worth. Latrice Jones says, listen, time is spiritual currency. Show me you love me with time. And then Lori Wallace says, if you don't value yourself, the other person won't. They have no point of reference. So with that, I want to go to, you asked a question in this book. I jumped ahead a lot of these things. I'm on page 57 now, where you say, do you know your wife? And when I was reading, I was like, do you know your husband? Or do you know that person you're dating? Do you know yourself well enough? And you really dive into all of that. And then you say, here's one thing, I'm on page 60. Here's one thing I know: when it comes to love between man and his wife, there's no perfect love because we're not perfect people. Sometimes we're looking for that perfect love that can have its perfect moments and events. However, those events require thought coupled with effort. So it's not just a thinking thing. I like when you said coupled with effort, like you have to do something. And you talk about that intentionality, which we talked about a few moments ago. But then you land on this question. I want you to answer this question. I'm curious to know your heart's answer, not the biblical answer. And I know you put the biblical reference in here. You asked the question, you say, back to my original question, what is this thing called love? Now that you've written this, now that you've gone through several divorces, what would you say? And then there's people wanting to know how they can get this book. So answer the question first, and then we'll get people to get a copy of this book.
What is this thing called love? We could stay on here for hours. I
only got 60 seconds.
Okay. Love starts with loving yourself. I think that if you don't love yourself, and I mentioned this probably early in the thing, that how can anybody else properly love you? How do you give and receive love in a healthy manner? And a lot of times we're looking for love in all the wrong places, to borrow that term. That we're looking for people to fill voids and heal wounds and things that they're not capable of doing. I would say this real quick. The line from Jerry Maguire. Tom Cruise looks at his co-star and says, "You complete me." Everybody, all the women, tears in their eyes, but that's not. I don't think that sounds good, but not sound doctrine. I believe that no one should complete you. People should compliment you, but if you're looking for someone to complete you, nobody should be saddled with that task. And so I believe love starts with loving yourself, having your love for God, and understanding God's love for you, to not give, because that vertical affects your horizontal. But what the George Benson said, the greatest love of all is inside of me. So
yeah, thank you for that. I had set aside 8 to 10 minutes. We've already gone over 15, 16 minutes. There's so much more we want to unpack with this, but there's people, we've now teased them. This book is called When a Man Loves a Woman. It's by G. Anthony Saunders, and the ticker is on the bottom there. Let people know how they can get the book, please.
You can go to Amazon.com. So When a Man Loves a Woman, there's several versions. So my subtitle in is Candid, How I Got It All Wrong. When a Man Loves a Woman, you can go to Amazon, or you can inbox me at Crack Ribs. That's my podcast at gmail.com. That's cracked, spelled with a K, at gmail.com. And we can make arrangements. If you want a signed copy, we can make arrangements to get that to you.
Now you said cracked ribs at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. That's crack with a K. Crack with a K. Yeah.
And ribs with an S?
Yeah. Yes,
cracked ribs. Hi, Clark at gmail.com.
Hey, that's you see
that's
Clark
your niece
is
on there.
Yeah, that's my niece. Hey, Clarkish.
And then she says, Clark says, and yes, Pastor Alex's daughter too. And Clark says you can find George on social media at Cracked Ribs Podcast. Thank you so much for putting that out there. Okay. I appreciate that. Mike Nicholson says that he's going to Amazon now to purchase. Mike Nicholson also says that we need 2 hours. We need 2 hours to discuss this. So y'all, and he's available to come and speak. Is that correct?
Yes, yes,
And they
yes,
would
ma'am.
do that by reaching out to you at your email. Yes?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
All right. She just said, yes, ma'am. I think we're the same age. Don't do that.
Hey, when you said this young man, and I'm like looking at all this gray as I'm looking, I was like, oh, well, that's generous, but I'm going to receive it. I'm going to receive it.
And then Dr. Antoinette said, fam, this is a great book and an easy read. It really is. Deborah Johnson says this is webinar material.
Okay.
Yep. And so my husband and I have a signed copy, so y'all can't have my copy at all. This is a signed copy from the author. So there's a lot. It seems like people are saying this is all webinar material for you. So that should be your next thing. Go around, start getting your speaking schedule up, calendar up, and go even to marriage retreats and so forth, singles retreats and so forth. Get that out there. So y'all, he's available. And this is what the cover looks like in case there's a couple of them out there, but this is what it looks like. And it's a great book. It's an easy read, biblical references. And I appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you so
Mike
much.
Nicholson and Gail Dudley said you got to get your own. That's right. You got to get your own. This is So this is what I'm going to do. NewsInMotion will purchase 3 of these. And on Thursday, we will do our Thanksgiving something we're going to do. And the 3 people who answer the questions correctly will each get one of the books. So, but don't wait for that. Still buy your own. You can always get one and give it as a gift. So when you're buying, think about Christmas, think about anniversaries, think about graduation, think about birthdays, think about just because. Think about people in your life who may be having challenges within their relationships. Buy a stack of these books and give them away as gifts. So again, thank you so much, George, for hanging out with us this morning. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
All right. See you soon. All right, everyone. We're running out of time, but here's the inspirational message. Do not become double-minded. Think about prayer, if you will. You cannot pray effectively for yourself, for someone else, or for something, and then talk negatively about it. We've talked about this before right here on NewsInMotion. That is being double-minded. James 1 verse 8 says, a double-minded man is unstable in all they do. Let's look at James chapter 1 verses 6 through 8 for a moment. It says, this is out of the New International Version, but when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like the wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. My question for you today is, what have you been asking for? Or who or what have you been praying for? And then later on, you curse that thing because you are saying something that has gone against the very prayer that you have asked. These are things we need to stop doing. So even as George was talking about his book, and he was talking about being intentional, and he was talking about his life, he was talking about the third marriage, he was just talking about his children. And you got to get the book to really see. I'm probably sharing more than what we did in the interview because I read the book. At some point, you have to say, okay, how am I going to pray about this? And how am I going to live through this? What does that look like for me in this season? What am I praying about? Am I praying about my business? Am I praying about my relationships? Am I praying about my finances? Well, after you're done praying about it, what action are you going to take? But you can't be double-minded. You can't be asking God to bless you financially, and then turn around and talk about how broke you are. That's being double-minded. You have to talk about and start planning what that's going to look like and how you're going to walk into the favor of the Lord. Y'all, this week has been a fun week, a different week. We still have 2 more days of it. I'm so excited tomorrow. Not only will we have Isaiah, we will also have his sister Misha, and I think it's going to be pretty wild. I might just have to come off screen and let them go at it. She's going to talk about vegan dishes, and he's going to talk about non-vegan dishes. We're going to talk about the meats tomorrow. We're going to bring that in, and we're going to talk about some other dishes, some casserole dishes and so forth. We're going to have some fun. Some of you were asking whether we're going to be able to do anything with drinks. Well, that was really supposed to be Wednesday, but it's now going to be Thursday, and we have to be very careful because we will have Lexi on the show who will be reporting from her high school, so we have to be careful with that. And I had to remind Isaiah, he's only 20, not 21. So we'll be dealing with that as well. We're going to find a way to work it all in. We're going to still have some fun. And then again, the week of Thanksgiving, we're going to be taking a break, but we will return on Monday, November 28th. So this week, y'all, the team is just like, let down. And that letdown is we have been going hard since September the 7th, bringing you all the election news, voting news, headline news, and so forth. So we're just having some fun. And it's interesting. There's so many people who have been writing in or inboxing us saying that they enjoyed the show yesterday. It was a different flavor because we weren't just on voting. Now, let me just make this disclaimer here. That's really who we are. Politics, news, headlines, but we're weaving in some other items until we start going hard again for the 2024 election. I don't know if he's going to announce today. My prayer is that he doesn't, that he would just go away. But if he does, y'all, don't let that rock your holiday or what's to come. Still enjoy it. Ignore it. Don't watch it. Don't put it on the loop and replay it. There's a lot of people on the GOP side is telling him not to do it because he failed them in this midterm election. So y'all know what I say, right? Stay well, everyone. And remember, make some bold moves. I'm out.
NewsInMotion.